everyone, and welcome to Importer Insight, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the global import industry, from fresh produce to the broader world of international trade. I'm going to be your host, Amanda Hornay, an industry professional with over 15 years experience in importing citrus, mangoes, avocados, and other tropical fruits. I've worked alongside some incredible growers, importers, and brands. I also serve on the Texas International Produce Association Board of Directors, where I advocate for border crossing transparency, industry standards, and the future of fresh produce. Through Importer Insight, we'll dive into the challenges, trends, and opportunities shaping the import business. But more importantly, we're going to shine a light on the people making it all happen. The growers, shippers, custom brokers, marketers, and industry leaders who keep the supply chain moving. From navigating regulations to building brands, this podcast brings you expert insights, success stories, and real conversations with the people driving global trade forward. So I hope you will stay with me as we explore one amazing high-stakes story at a time in the world of imports. Right now, you're going to see my first ever recording with a titan in the fresh produce industry, someone I have dubbed the Oracle of Mangoes. Stay tuned because that's happening right now. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Importer Insight with Amanda Hornay. Today, I have a 25-year veteran of the produce industry, a former chairman of the National Mango Board, and co-founder of Amazon Produce Network. Here with me today is Greg Golden. Hi, Greg.
Hi, Amanda. Thanks for having me.
How are you?
Doing great. Doing good, as always.
Thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time to visit with me today. And why don't you start off with letting us know how you started off in the fresh produce industry?
Well, sure. I enjoy telling this story. I'll try to not make it too long, but...
as long as you want.
Okay, well, it goes back to when I was 9 years old. It actually does, because, you know, in life and business, it's who you know. And my father was a Rotarian, and he ran the youth exchange program. So at that age, we had a Brazilian girl come and live in our home for a few months. Fast forward a lot of years, she marries my co-founder partner of this. Before we founded Amazon, I met him because she married him, and then she came to visit when I was in college, and we met. And then fast forward a few years later, I was out of college. I had got an engineering degree. I was working at General Electric, and my exchange sister moved to the United States as a physician to do a fellowship in New Jersey, Philadelphia area. And her husband came with her to live, and I went and visited, and they were going to be there for a couple of years. And he was just thinking, I need to do something while I live here. I need to import something from Brazil. All I'm doing right now is, he was doing an MBA, and he was exporting some water well drilling equipment back to Brazil for a family business, but he really wanted to try to import something from Brazil. So he was asking me, like, what do you have? What ideas do you have? And I had none. But this was just a month or two before I was going to go back to grad school myself. I was getting out of GE, and I went to the University of South Carolina to study international business. And on the first day that we were there, they put us in this small business class with this professor that made us divide up into two groups: people that wanted to go the corporate route and people that wanted to go the entrepreneurial route. And I wanted to go entrepreneurial route because I'd had 4 years of big corporate life, and it just wore me out.
As it does.
Yeah.
So what we did in that class is he had an alumni come in that had just invented a product called the Global Trade Atlas. He had consolidated all the world's port data onto a CD-ROM. I remember this was back like 1998. And he had a little office right off campus. He was selling this data, and he extended an offer to all the new students to come and do whatever queries and research you wanted to do. And just like a month earlier, you know, Gilmar Mello, my partner, had wanted to figure out what could we import from Brazil. So I was like, oh, that's perfect. I'll just go run some queries and see what's growing in volume from Brazil to the United States. So I got a list together and presented it to him. And mangoes was maybe 5th or 6th on the list, growing fast. And he knew a guy. That's the key. He knew a guy from his hometown that was growing all these mangoes and trying to export. So he went and talked to him and asked if he'd be interested. And the grower was immediately like, oh my God, this is the answer to my prayers. I've tried to export to the United States. It was horrible. I couldn't communicate with anybody. I sent my mangoes and I never got any information back. I was told that they were bad. There was no pictures. There was no information. There was no market intelligence. And now I can't even find the guy that imported them. I've never been paid.
Oh my
That
goodness.
was the experience of the guy that Gilmore knew. So he's like, please help me, figure out how to get my mangoes in the United States, not be a disaster. So that turned into a project real quick where I downloaded all the data from this CD-ROM, figured out every importer, and I started calling them as a student in MBA program, saying, would you be interested in, a mango grower in Brazil that wants to work with you? And I interviewed everybody. Everybody was really interested. I could tell that, wow, this guy's got something. Everybody was interested because there's no mangoes in the market at this time frame. I settled on a guy that seemed like ethical, friendly, just kind of guy that I could see it working out with.
Right.
And I put the two together, made the introduction. They couldn't communicate. But even though the guy spoke Spanish, that doesn't mean you can speak with a Brazilian that doesn't speak English.
Yeah, no, I mean, communication is so important these days. I feel like that's why I have a job.
Yeah. So just to continue with the origin story, this program I was in South Carolina, you're required to go do an overseas internship. So study a foreign language, do immersion in the culture. So I was, fast forward another few months later, I'm down there doing this part of the program. And the guy flies down to Sao Paulo, where I'm doing my internship, to meet me. We fly out to Piauí to meet the grower. And I just basically sat there and translated and helped negotiate the terms for them to work together on a program for the season. And then the campaign went off. I was still in Brazil, but Gilmar was back in New Jersey, where he could meet every container, take digital photographs, call the grower immediately, tell him what was going on. And then he would visit the sales office of this company every single day and understand the market and what's going on, any problems they're having. And most importantly, for this grower who had been burned so badly, we documented everything. We documented every single expense that got accrued on liquidations. We documented every sales order, invoice, check that cleared, freight bill, and we just put together a package and we sent it back to the grower. And this was like, oh my God, I've never had this kind of service or transparency before.
Right.
And, he just loved it. The season went pretty well. And then it was, the next year later, Gilmar and I are like in our last semester looking to graduate. We were at different schools. I was at South Carolina. He was up here in Philadelphia at Drexel. But in the last semester of our school, I had the option of either working on a consulting team or writing a business plan for credit. So I did the business plan for Amazon Produce Network as a class project, and was convinced that this is a business that, this can meet my goals. I can scratch out a living and I don't have to work in corporate America anymore. I think we're going to give this a shot. I didn't know one thing about fruit, and Gilmar had never worked in it either, except for the little time we spent monitoring the program the season before. But we decided 25 years ago, Monday, I think it's February 2nd, whenever that was. That was the 25th anniversary of when we actually decided for real and
push forward.
I went down to the county office and registered an LLC. And that was 25 years ago. And it's been, a long, slow growth path since then to get to where we are. But, not the long origin story, but I'll continue it a little bit from there. It was that service that we offered of transparency and complete accounting and just the trust that we built with that grower it led to our growth in the early years where because basically we were doing the most obvious thing you do as a startup without any knowledge is, you go and you visit terminal markets and you meet guys, and then you have very
Right.
small volume, and you just find the right pallet for the right customer, and every single pallet is its own story at that stage of your
Right.
growth. And, you tell the customer exactly what it is, and you work through problems. That's where you build relationships, and you work through the problems together. And then we just grew by referral, basically from one grower to another grower, and then from one customer to another customer,
Just kept
and just
growing.
real slow. We've grown every year for 25 years.
And now you're the largest mango importer
Yeah,
in the U.S.
it didn't happen overnight, believe me. It did not happen
The
overnight.
American dream.
But
Congratulations.
that was the origin. And I guess just the other major landmarks, I guess, in our journey. Of course, it was just Gilmar and me for
Uh-huh.
many years, and then
Yeah. When did you start adding team members?
Yeah, about year 5 or 6. I've had an assistant after maybe 3 or 4 years. And then we added my brother Clark
Uh-huh.
as the first person to come in the business. We'd had a dream since childhood to work together, but the business got to a point where it was big enough to handle another partner. He came in earning his way in as a partner. I was going to concentrate on sales. I was the out. Gilmar was the procurement. He was the in. And Clark was going to help me with the selling, but he was also going to start to become the administrative, build infrastructure to continue to grow,
Right.
which started happening. We started hiring. We developed an internship program with a university in Brazil. This was a great thing for our company early on because we had these last year agro technicians, people that had like a 2 or 3 year degree in agriculture to come and
That's
work
amazing.
as our quality control people.
Yeah.
And we ran this program for maybe 10 or more years. But all these students would come, they would work for like a year and a half. We were getting really long visas back then. And they would go back with an incredible amount of knowledge and great experience of this market. So then they would all get jobs in the pack houses all through Brazil. So now our network is like, people that we
Huge.
had right here that we developed and trained all throughout Brazil. So that was a big thing for us for a lot of years. But we grew into each of the offshore regions through grower referral.
Which countries do you import from now? Because, do you do Peru, Colombia, Guatemala?
Okay, yeah, we do the 5 big ones, the 5 major ones.
Colombia's pretty new.
We don't really do Colombia yet. So basically, we started in Brazil. Then our next deal that we got was in Ecuador, I think, and then we got Guatemala, and then we started getting growers in Peru, and then we were brokering through the Mexican season for many, many years, as you know, because your father's a mango pioneer.
Is that how you met Dad?
Yeah, just buying in the valley. We became friends a long time ago, and we did that for many, many years until I'm skipping a milestone here. In 2012, we started a West Coast division.
Okay.
We partnered up with another partner, made the 4th partner after my brother was Sal Barba. Because we were working with him heavily as a customer at his former company. We saw that there was a big opportunity with him as a salesperson to start sending a lot more fruit to the West Coast and attending more customers. So we formed that partnership. And shortly after that, he had such a good network in Mexico and a customer base that a grower came to us that had, I guess, gotten frustrated with his other importers or something,
Right.
came to us. And that was rocket fuel. When we got this grower in Mexico, it just went fantastic, like just absolutely fantastic the first year. And I think we maybe did 500,000 boxes with this grower.
Okay.
And the next day they like doubled year after year. They kept doubling and expanding because they were a big Sinaloa based grower, but they got really happy and confident with our performance. And then they went to Oaxaca and leased the pack house and leased fields. And then they did the same thing in Los Mochis, so we were able to string the whole Mexican season together from south to north, and that was when we could really start to service the big retail year-round prime movers of mango.
Around what time was that, or what year?
Like 2014, 15 in there.
Okay.
We started to just be a major player in the Mexican deal, which is the main deal.
Right.
But we were already really significant in all the offshore deals, but they were able to take us out of that bucket of being these offshore guys to being, hey, maybe they're my main guys year round.
Yes.
So the one aspect of the business is that to serve a customer the way they want to be served, you need to be there 52 weeks.
Yeah, that's definitely changed the whole way that things have worked, right? In the past, you see these big houses that only really focused on Mexico or certain areas, and either they have or they haven't grown and expanded, and you see the volumes changing and the tides turning to you now that you're the largest, importer of mangoes into the country. Yeah. Whereas maybe, 15 years ago when I started, that was completely different. And as far as the Mexican deal, because that's really like my expertise. But it's just, I'm so amazed by your story. And to me, it's like the American dream, building it from nothing to this huge deal. And
it's been a great ride. It's been a wonderful industry to be in because there's so many interesting people and wonderful people. And none of it's possible without the right teammates. That's where I've been blessed with the best original partner. Then my brother coming in, and then Sal. They've just been wonderful. And then the whole team we built around us with the next generation of leaders. Yeah. They've all added more depth.
I was just talking to my sister yesterday about how your net worth is your net worth. Yeah. I'm sure you've heard that before. Relationships are so important these days, and especially at the retail level, I feel like those relationships are so vital and important, and they really, really rely on you to make sure that you perform. How is it like? My forte is more the wholesale side.
Yeah.
How do you grow that business? How does it work for you?
I mean, that is the big question. We ask ourselves every day, and what we have to show up to do every day. And it's a couple of things. And number one is performance. You have to fulfill your commitments.
Right.
So an important thing there is to not commit what you can't fulfill.
Obvious. Yeah.
And then it's things never go perfectly right. So there's always a challenge coming. There's always rough seas ahead. Back to our core, like our founding principle, which was to transparency and honesty and working through problems together. That's what it's all about. We try to be ahead of the game with our customers by giving them a warning shot.
Right.
Hey, we're seeing the size distribution shift drastically. We think we're going to really, you might not feel it today, but you might really be careful about 2 weeks out committing. So we want to have that proactive communication, letting the customer know how to not get themselves in trouble. And that just offers more benefits with them being aligned with what the crop's going to look like 2 and 3 weeks down the road. So it's sort of transparency and fairness and just loyalty to the people that are loyal to you.
True.
If they're there for you every week, you make sure you have supply for them, whether it's prorated or not. But it's what a long-term
you definitely have to be a person of your word in this industry, or else you're not going to last long. And if you don't keep your word, people know, and they don't work with you.
I think
they won't continue to work with you. So I'm grateful. That was a lesson that I learned early on, and really have tried to maintain myself, always trying to keep my word. Of course, everything changes. Like my dad has always told me, nothing is certain in life. So you got to roll with the punches and do what you can when you can. And like you said, just keep them up to date with what's going on, and
I think you hit the nail on the head. That's kind of a golden rule in produce,
Yes.
And it keeps you
really
humble. It really keeps you humble to know that, all the cards could be stacked in your favor with a really tight market and you got some supply. But if you start to act that way, they remember. And then the shoe is going to be on the other foot sooner than later. So treat people the way you want to be treated.
I sell avocados as well. And in that market, you can really see like people just try to gouge when it's, crazy high. And I've always felt that was the wrong thing to do, and don't do that. And it's anyway.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's one of the reasons that we haven't been able to get into what a lot of people would think would be just the most logical step would be like limes and avocados, because those two commodities, it's just the most brutal swings in the market, and it's a lot of gamesmanship.
Oh, for sure.
It's
For
yanking
sure.
people's chain and pulling the rug out from under them. And our DNA as a company is not built that way. We are looking for
Yeah.
long-term partnerships with big grower shippers that need to move their fruit and that
Right.
like to have commitment and safe homes for stuff, not that like to throw chips down at the roulette table. That's not us.
Yeah, no, for
You know?
sure. And I think the offshore countries coming in, and I think they really help to stabilize the market as far as like limes and avocados. It's not,
Mhm.
that's not necessarily acceptable anymore. And people are looking for those program deals. And like in the lime business, you've got Colombia now and doing a
Yeah,
fantastic job, great quality. Peru's coming in, and they just keep getting better and better as they
yeah,
understand the crop more and more and as the years
yeah.
progress. So we've seen
It
a lot
makes
of
sense.
changes. Huh?
Yeah, it makes so much sense because you have to,
Yeah.
at least in the mango deal, you always kind of divide things up between Mexico and
Uh-huh.
offshore. And
Yes.
offshore is fundamentally different. Every growing region is different, but the fact that an offshore grower has to book ocean space and containers and run a program and get things on those ships on time, they don't have the option to just yank the chain away and send a truck a different direction or this and that. It makes you more partnered for the program versus what
Right.
they can do in Mexico, which is sell elsewhere or stop harvesting.
Yeah.
Doesn't work the same.
I tell me what your biggest challenges have been so far.
I can think of a few good ones. First of all, there's the customer compliance part of the business. It's gotten ever more complex with every big retailer with their own different requirements on traceability and social responsibility, supply chain security. We're getting, it seems like a new audit request at least a couple of times a week, and everyone having their own different platforms. There's a lot of subscriptions we have to get
Yes,
into and
you're right.
maintain across so many different platforms. Um,
And they all
and
cost money. They all cost a fee.
they all cost money and they cost a lot of time.
Yes.
And they're starting to be, some retailers are rolling out penalties for things like not having a PLU code pre-registered in their system before you ever send it to them. Well, we work with 50 something growers that a lot of them like to pack their own labels and stuff. And it's just
Right.
really hard to make sure you have every single possible PLU sticker code uploaded into every different retailer's system.
I can see that
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 is a
would be a
huge challenge.
challenge.
Okay, with all challenges come opportunity as well. So if
Right.
you're one of the few people that can keep up with all of that, then
Uh-huh.
you're gonna benefit from that by getting the business
Absolutely.
and not getting fined. So customer compliance, ever escalating challenge, but also an opportunity. And then crop intelligence, just knowing what the crop is going to be. We're seeing it right now where this Peru deal, everyone was alleging that they were passing their peak around Christmas time because they really did start a lot earlier than normal and ramp up a lot quicker. And
Right.
everyone said the crop is over and the volumes were going to drop really quick, and watch out for the end of January. Don't have any ads in February. And I got, like last week, the OPAIN, the Peruvian mango exporters report, was the highest number of containers shipped that I've ever seen in my time in this business. It was supposed to be like well past the peak, and they shipped almost 600 containers to the
Wow.
U.S. Just complete opposite of reality. What we're being told is going to happen, the complete opposite. We were
Right.
being told, oh, there's not going to be any more tens and twelves by whatever date. And then seemed like that was all we were getting. So crop
Right.
intelligence is a huge problem. And I've noted what drives that. The crop intelligence is much better out of Brazil, Guatemala, and Ecuador than it is out of Mexico or Peru. And the reason is because of the massive amount of small growers that represent a huge portion. There, no one has the information. It's all generated in a rumor mill. and people, like one guy alleges that he lost 50% of his crop because of the wind or this and that. And all of a sudden that's going around, and no one has much of a global view, just a micro view. And they spread the rumor, and they're just sitting there thinking, oh my God, I didn't lose anything. This is going to be great. We're going to raise the price. And it's a very unhealthy environment to not have a global view. It happens wherever there's a massive amount of small growers. Brazil, Ecuador, Guatemala, it's all controlled by very large scale packers that are also own most of the fields. So they have a good view. Plus they're offshore where they know what they need to book for container space and stuff like that.
Are there Peru's other sources? Go ahead.
Is that Peru's harder, even though they have to book container space, because they have such a huge European market. The whole world buys from, Peru.
Right. They all buy from
export to 20-something countries.
America, yeah.
So it's a little different. But
right.
So anyway, the main question you're asking was the challenges, and I did customer compliance and crop intelligence. But a couple other things that pop into my mind is that the industry has changed, progressed in some good ways, with mangoes becoming more mainstream and more of the volume being on contract, more of the volume going straight to retail, at least my volume. And a lack of tolerance in the terminal markets for quality defects. That we used to just turn anything into money. Just go, and they would find anything, any kind of surface defects, anything. There was a market for it. And soft fruit was just, hey, ripened, and there were customers that loved that. Nowadays, anything you send that's not kind of retail chain quality, they just
gonna do poorly.
You're not gonna get much back, and that's a negative change. That's and a challenge.
Yeah, the volume just keeps growing and growing. I read that Mexico did send 80 million boxes, cartons to the U.S. last season, that they're expected to send 10 to 15% more this season. Do you think that's true, or is that what you've heard so far? Everybody's saying something different at this point, and we've got some cold weather coming next week.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen a preseason projection by Emacs. So all we have is a few growers telling us what they're going to do, and all their speculation is on depending on what they can buy for. Because again, you're in the southern part of Mexico right now, just starting, and there's only one or two large landowning growers down there. I'd like to know what they're saying, but we work with several packers that buy, and it's just all speculation.
Yeah, these next few weeks are very critical, right? I guess to the start, and when we'll see more fruit and whatnot out of Mexico. So we'll see. So do you think? I guess
I would bet there's going to be more fruit this year.
Yeah.
Just one thing we've kind of noticed in general over the years is that as the growing meat regions move north from South America to north, they seem to repeat the same themes. Either they're delayed or early or up or down. And, we're seeing record volumes coming out of Peru this year. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So like when La Nina hit was that 2023, 2022, 2023?
24, 23. Yeah. The fall of 23 going
That's when there was
a
huge shortage.
Yeah. The crop loss in Ecuador and Peru was amazing. Those trees were ready to go this year.
What did you do during that time when there's so little fruit to sell? And what did you do for your customers?
It was the hardest thing. Well, unfortunately, we actually had to call force majeure back out of some contracts. It killed us to do that, but we weren't going to have the fruit. We literally had about 1/4 to 1/5 of the volume that we had the year before.
I know, it was nuts.
And the whole market did as well. Peru was 20% of the previous year. But, the market went 3 times higher.
Yes.
So,
I've never seen prices that high for mangoes in my life.
Yeah, we were having to guarantee that we would sell things at, $13, $14 just to get it to ship, and the market was up to 15, 16.
Yes. Hopefully not another season like that anytime soon.
Yeah. But, the key there was like we tried to we did send out crop reports,
letting them know
letting them know it was coming with time to cancel ads, readjust everything. We had a decent visibility that the crop was just not going to come. So we communicated well in advance and just aligned the retailers for the reality. And, some got upset and stomped their feet, and others were very thankful for the proactive communication.
Good. So going into like sustainability, it's such a big word in our industry. There's a lot of emotion tied to it, I feel like, and everybody's definition of what sustainability is different. What is it to Amazon?
It's a lot of things. I mean, obviously, you think of the environment, first of all, but you also think about the economics. So this is driven. I mean, this whole talk of sustainability and all the effort you see is really driven by the large retailers. It's the Walmarts and Costco's and the Aldi's and Kroger's are out there that they have their initiatives, and everybody in our position, of course, jumps through hoops to comply with it. It is the way the world works. The customer is right,
no matter what.
So I give credit to the big retailers for driving this down the supply chain. I'm in alignment with it. I mean, anything that has to do with the fairness to the workers or the treatment of the environment, we're all in on that. So we're kind of a conduit of just where the big retailers' priorities are going, which is, I guess, pulled from public opinion and political efforts. I don't know what it all comes from, but when they say jump, we say how high, and we try to we get our growers on board with it. And I can say that 10 years ago, the growers would ask a million questions and complain and explain how much it's going to cost to do this and that. And that has pretty much ended. Now we go and say, hey, X retailer, if you like their business, we got to do this. And they're like, okay, let's do it. It's the way of the world. And
you see, go ahead.
No, I like a lot of the initiatives that are coming down. We've got, customers that want us to do fair trade, and it makes me very happy when the growers jump on that, and we see the results. We see them accruing all this money to the workers directly, or to projects such as, a local health clinic or schools or, family centers, things like that.
Yeah. The U.S. market has really benefited so many. I know that when I visited Peru a couple of years ago, I was able to meet with an avocado grower who his crop was like in a very mountainous area. It took a really long time to get there. And he was so grateful that he could sell avocados to the U.S. or anywhere really, because it had helped him to create a life for his family that he wouldn't have been able to otherwise. He was able to build a school. We got to drive by the school, see the kids sitting outside, playing and stuff. And he just felt so blessed. And that really, touched my heart that, we're doing so much good. Yeah. Every penny that we fight for, every nickel that we fight for our growers leads to that, helping them to benefit their lives.
That is one of the most, what do you call it? The most satisfying things when you go on these trips to these mango regions, because you're generally in a sort of a third world situation where there's a lot of poverty, and it's great to see these growers doing so much for their workers.
Yes.
That's who you want to partner with.
It really has. It was just an amazing experience, and I can't wait to go back. See them again. So what technologies have you implemented for your business, and what have you seen develop over the last 25 years that has changed the industry?
For my business, I think you probably want to hear a little bit about like farmer technology and grower packer. I don't own any farms. We represent farmers from all the different major growing regions, and I can tell you the technologies that I see that are interesting. First of all, I would say mango is not leading any industry and technology. A new technology to mangoes has most likely been seen somewhere else and then adopted.
When did irradiation come into play?
Man, I remember our first terrible experiment with that was probably 10 or 12 years ago, but it's it's popularizing. That is probably the number one technology that I see maybe transforming the industry a little bit in the future, because it can allow a lot of new regions that don't have hot water treatment protocols to come in, or mangoes that can't, mango varieties that are maybe more sensitive and can't handle the hot water treatment can come in. So I see a lot of promise there. I don't see a ton of volume yet, but the last few years have seen pretty big growth in Mexico, specifically in irradiated volume.
Yeah, everyone kind of changed, I feel like at the retail level for sure. And then now it's starting to trickle down into the secondary markets, but the whole concept is being more accepted, and it is allowing for other varieties. So speaking of that, are you looking at any other varieties to bring into the market?
I'm not pushing any growers to grow any new varieties, but a lot of our growers have these projects going on where they have 100 varieties planted and they're just doing these tests. It's a very long-term thing in mangoes. Mangoes is, it takes a while to get a plant in the ground and get fruit off of it, but it's coming. I can't say that I know of anything that's really short-term coming down the pipe. The one variety that I really love that is kind of new and unknown is the Naomi variety. We've gotten this variety from Ecuador for a few years now. There's no real huge commercial volume yet, but this is a beautiful variety with gorgeous color, nice background color. So it's everything you love about the visual aspect of a Tommy, but it is just like a Kent on the inside. Just
nice.
Sweet and juicy. So that's one that I would like to see a lot more of. I think there's
Is that your favorite, or what's your favorite variety?
I'm just going to go with Kent. That's my favorite. If I've been answering that question that way for a long time. Nothing's really changed that. For my everyday eating variety go-to. Mangoes is wonderful because there's so many different eating experiences to have. There's thousands of varieties, and what you're in the mood for one day could be different, or one time a day, or pairing with what food, it can all change. But a go-to is the Kent for me.
The Kent.
All the time. I love it.
I really enjoy the Haydens as well. I think I feel like that's what a mango is supposed to, or the smells that you buy, the scented candles or lip gloss, it's based off of that. It's gotta be.
That's true. I think Hayden might be one of the most fragrant.
Right.
But have you ever like had one of those Indian varieties like the Kesar?
No, I haven't yet.
That is some fragrance that, you haven't had that experience.
Do you think more Indian mangoes will make it into the market?
Not really, no.
No.
The economics just aren't there. It's just so expensive.
Yeah,
to irradiate and fly it over here. And it comes at the same time that Mexico and Guatemala start to peak and the low point of the season.
Yeah.
To sell a $30 box of mangoes that weighs 3 kilos.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense on the economics, but it is a wonderful eating experience. It absolutely is.
And, I guess I'm kind of crestfallen that Alto Ufos, or honey mangoes, I still call them Alto Ufos, haven't really taken off. I feel like that's...
I don't know if I share your opinion on that, because we've seen pretty incredible growth amongst some of our key customers.
Really?
With
I guess because I'm here in the Midwest, right? In the middle of nowhere, in the Ozarks. Yeah. And it's just not popular here.
Yeah.
It's more of a round mango area. I'm hoping that they'll start to bring in more Alto Ufos, and that people will learn more about them and know that I feel like they're like the easiest mango to eat, or when it's ready to eat. Just a little bit of wrinkly skin. That's the great thing about them.
But I would say we've seen incredible growth in honey mangoes. And I'll share one success story with you, and just as a suggestion to maybe other retailers out there. We had a retailer that we were having a shortage of round mangoes one time, and the only thing we could offer them was honey mangoes. And they revamped their promotion. They always did them separate. They were using a little tiny Ataulfo and a bigger round mango, but they started using larger Ataulfo mangoes, and they started swapping. It was like a 10 for 10, either or. So you could take 5 rounds and 5 yellows or honeys, or 9 and 1, or whatever you wanted to do, but it was interchangeable.
That's a really good sell.
And they got a lot of people trying it that hadn't really tried it before.
Yeah.
because of the nature of the swappability. And then after that, their honey mango sales just took off.
Have
So
you seen, do you feel like the consumer is looking more for bags, or do you still see like the bulk and the 4 kilo boxes being, the way to go? People are
look,
pushing bags, but is
I,
that
I would love to develop a good bag program to be able to absorb all of the small sizes like other commodities have done. I don't see a real appetite for it yet. I also don't see the economics of it working at all. That's been our problem. We've tried it before, but it gets so expensive versus the bulk.
right?
Basically, you would need to get the bags to absorb 14 and 16 count round mangoes for it to make much sense economically, because you can't get anything for that fruit outside of one or two programs. So if it would develop a new market for those sizes that aren't really so commercially viable, good. But
Then it might
you
be
know,
okay.
I think only really Mexico would be able to bag it in country and
Right.
send it. It's just not going to work from anywhere else, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
You have to bag it here, and now you're talking about, most likely you'd ship in a master carton, and you're talking 20 cents a bag and $2.50 a box of material cost, and another, God knows what, $3 a box of repacked labor.
Right. No, it's quite expensive.
So it's hard to offer a value per piece, even though you're putting a whole bunch of them in a bag. It's just going to
Right.
cost. It's not going to be a value saving. It can't be a value play. It has to be a convenience play
Right.
or something like that. But it's so inconvenient to cut small mangoes. So I don't want to poo-poo it, but I mean, I'm just telling you, we've looked at it.
No,
And,
I know I've seen them come and go, and
yeah,
it just I don't know that it'll stick. I'm not sure. We'll see.
I hope it does.
You hope it does it?
I hope it does work.
Oh, you hope it does.
It'll help absorb that part of the crop
True.
that we don't really have a market for.
Right.
It just hasn't worked out economically without any of our tests in the past. We've done it a couple times.
So you said you handle 52 different stickers. You have multiple labels. Do you feel like branding is really important?
Well, in general, no. I don't think branding has been very important in our commodity, but it's becoming necessary because of the compliance challenges.
Yeah.
We just can't handle 50 different labels all the time because of what I was mentioning earlier with having to pre-register everybody's barcodes. And there is a general request from a lot of major retailers to not switch up the brands all the time. So we do have a big effort going on to have an Amazon brand. It's a sensitive topic with growers that we grew up with from 25 years ago, representing their brand and all that stuff, and they're proud of it, and we want them to be.
Yes.
But then the compliance side of it is just making it necessary. So we've got our Bella brand out there, and we're trying to get everybody on board with packing. And we've made huge strides. We have, Bella year round now. This was a challenging year because of the packaging issues in Peru.
Okay.
There was no packaging. There was no, box. You couldn't get a new box made in Peru. You couldn't even you basically were forced to take the generic boxes this year.
Wow.
Because the overload of orders for blueberries and avocados in Peru.
Oh, yes.
Mangoes were on the back burner. It was really a challenging year. So that set us back. But in general, I'd say we're probably getting 70% of our mangoes now in the Bella label.
Nice.
So that's helping us.
Is that the same label you use for the Ataulfo mangoes as well, or do you use a different label?
We have a Bella box for both.
For both.
Yeah.
Very cool. So do you have any future, you're already the largest mango importer in the country. I'm sure you're continuing to grow in some way, shape, or form. What are those plans, if you can tell me?
We don't have I wouldn't say we have a very specific goal to just be the biggest. We want to always grow responsibly and do the best job for our grower. And what that requires is keeping your supply in balance with your demand. You put a lot of effort into that, mapping it out, getting projections from growers for, the next 5 weeks, and having every salesperson put in their projected demand or regular orders for their regular customer, and then, inputting any kind of ad promotions in there. We match it up and see if we're going to be short or long, and then take action to smooth it out and correct it. So I don't remember. I think I remember what your original question was. The specific plan.
Like if you have any plans to grow, if
we love to grow. It's the whole point.
Any plans for expansion into other things?
We've always tried to grow, but we've tried to do it responsibly. And by doing it responsibly and doing a good job for the grower, especially because we work in generally a consignment model.
Right.
So as long as you're giving as good or better returns and communicating well with your growers, it leads to more volume in the future because they trust more of their crop with you. And that's what's always fueled our growth. We don't go around buying and speculating. We go around partnering and performing for our grower partners. And that's what's going to drive the growth. And we have other kind of growth plans as a company that are outside of mangoes, but that's not what we're here to talk about today.
No, of course not. Yeah. We won't let them in. We can't tell everybody your secrets. But if you could, give any advice from what you've learned over the last 25 years to people that are new in the industry, what would it be?
This will sound cliche, but this business is all about relationships. That's what is going to sustain you. You can't move mangoes without relationships, and you can't procure mangoes without relationships for long.
Right.
You can go and buy them, but you're going to be you can go pay hard money at the top of the market and anyone will sell you if you're paying too much.
Yeah.
Then you're not going to be in business very long. But, we try to work in this consignment model as a long-term, partner sales arm for the growers. And, so the relationships are built on, those obvious building blocks. It's the trust, the loyalty, transparency, fairness. Fairness is like the business is volatile, and you have to be able to give and take, in accordance with necessity on both sides. We're a middleman. We're in the middle. We're a catalyst or an enzyme or whatever you want to call it in between the supply and the demand, trying to make it all work together.
Yes.
So
I'm like a coordinator on a mass scale, making sure that things go from here to here and everybody's happy.
So, and then, if you're like starting in the industry, but if you're starting a company in the industry, you need to realize how much effort you're gonna have to put into compliance to be able to qualify as a vendor for all these different customers. It could be easily underestimated, and it's hard to keep up with it if you don't have some full-time eyes.
Yeah, I think 2026 is when it all is being enforced, everything with the new regulations, and that deadline's quickly approaching. And I know there's a lot of people nervous about it, but I'm sure we'll all get through it. Fine.
Well, when I say compliance, it's a broad category. There's obviously food safety, there's social responsibility, there's policies on pollinator health and environmental stuff. But now, and traceability and packaging and uploading, but now there's like EDI and advanced ship notices and things of that nature that are going to take so much more time than you ever spent on them in your career before. But now when you have to send electronic advanced shipping notices of everything you ship with all kind of data, with lot numbers and pack dates, and it's going to become more than any human team can handle all by themselves. You're going to have software and investment to do this stuff for you. And so that raises the barrier of entry a little bit to the industry. But again,
for sure,
that same thing from before is that everywhere there's a huge challenge, there's probably an opportunity that goes along with it.
Yeah. So if you're willing to do the work, you'll be successful.
If you're willing to overcome the challenge, you're probably going to reap the benefit.
Yes. Well, Greg, thank you so much for this. I'm really, really grateful you spent some time with me. And taking time away from your family to explain your life and how you came about and what you're doing and your thoughts on the industry. I'm really grateful to you,
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Anytime.
I hope you had fun. I hope it wasn't too hard.
I did. I really enjoyed this, actually.
Okay, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Maybe we can do it again sometime.
All right.
Well, thank you again. And We'll see ya.
All right. See you, Amanda.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to my first ever interview on Importer Insight. I want to thank Greg Golden again for being so generous with his time. And thank you to Amazon Produce Network. If you'd like to know more information about them, I'm going to leave their email address in the description. And if Greg can't help you with mangoes, I definitely can, because I also import mangoes. So reach out to me. Anyhow, I hope you will stay tuned, because my next episode is going to be with an absolute king of the fresh produce industry. And there's way more to come. So we'll see you soon. Take care.